What a treat we have in store today. We are very fortunate to be joined by Congressman Chuck Fleischmann, Tennessee's representative from the 3rd District in U.S. Congress. Congressman Fleischmann, welcome.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me today. I'm joining you from my office in the Rayburn office building in Washington, D.C., and it's always a pleasure to be with you all.
Well, thank you. And so, Congressman Fleischmann, I choked on your name because you go by Chuck. And I've known you since you were a trial lawyer, an incredible trial lawyer, always a true gentleman. And I mean that. I was always amazed by your civility in the courtroom and always, frankly, wished I possessed that when sometimes I didn't. But I'm so happy to have you here. But you've got a big day today. You have co-sponsored a bill, and let me see if I can get this right. It has been called one of the most important environmental bills in history, the Great American Outdoors Act. Sir, can you share with us what is that bill about?
Well, thank you. As you know, since I have served in Congress in my 10-year tenure, the national parks I have deemed a national treasure. I think regardless of where one sits on the political spectrum, the vast majority of American people realize that our national parks and our national park system are there for the American people. And going back to presidents such as Teddy Roosevelt, who had a great affinity for the outdoors and the like, in our part of the world, we have the Chickamauga National Park and its associated parks and the like, the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee, but all across the United States, I have visited national parks. Unfortunately, over time, a tremendous backlog has occurred. What I mean by that is, if you create a national park with roads and facilities, over time, the infrastructure, unfortunately, deteriorates and needs to be maintained. The more national parks we have, and there are many more, as a matter of fact, I was one of the prime sponsors of the Manhattan Era National Park, one of our newest national parks, which covers Oak Ridge, Hanford, Washington, and Los Alamos, New Mexico. So I've also worked to create national parks, but when we create them, we need to maintain them. But basically what this bill will do in a very strong bipartisan and bicameral way is to support the necessary funding mechanisms that have long been overdue to bring our national parks back up to where they need to be so the American people can enjoy them not only now, but for generations to come.
And it's my understanding that the Chattanooga-Chickamauga battlefield, the national park here, is in need of about $50 million worth of repairs right now.
That's correct. And of course, that is a wonderful system. The Chickamauga Park also includes Point Park and other locations which are in Chattanooga. The ranger who is over that covers literally several of the adjoining areas where we had Civil War activity. And all of these areas need to be maintained. They're all beautiful. And I think as people come to our part of the world, or we travel to other parts of the world and visit our national parks. I actually went up a few years ago to visit Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, all of which are now actually under the national park system. Most people won't realize when we go to the White House in good times and do a White House tour, it's the national park system that actually handles that East Wing tour that we have through our great White House. So
Wow.
It's very important that we address that. I'm a member of the Appropriations Committee, so I've worked for funding our national parks for years, but I hope it's something that we do this in a very strong bipartisan or nonpartisan way.
And I heard you mention that. You said there was bipartisan support. And again, I talk about your civility and it's real. I mean, that's what you have always been known for. Do you find that your civil demeanor and your civil approach is useful in getting a bill like this, getting everyone on board, or getting enough people on board to get a bill like this through?
It's useful at a time like this, yes. It's also useful at a time right now where I think in America, let's face it, I'm a conservative Republican. I represent a wonderful part of the world where overwhelmingly I've been elected by large majorities, the vast majority of people who disagree with me. But I'm cognizant of the fact that there are constituents of mine who do not. I try to show them civility. I try to show them the time and the respect to deal with that. But when I'm dealing with members from across the country at a time right now in our history where it is contentious, it is polarizing, and I think if we bring the proper demeanor to the table, there are people on the other side of the aisle with whom I disagree probably 99 times out of 100. But when we can come together and have civil discourse and talk about the issues and mutual respect for one another, I think it is so important, because when we get to an issue like this with the national parks, or like the battle against cancer, or like the battle to support our veterans, it makes it a lot easier to coalesce and come together.
So as a veteran, I appreciate you saying that. And I do want to ask you this, sir. There has been a lot going on lately, a lot of civil unrest, and you a statue of the Virgin Mary was beheaded at a church in which you attended here in the Chattanooga area, and you immediately came out and made a statement. I mean, that hurt you. That actually affected you personally. Can you share with us a little bit about that, sir?
Well, thank you. Yes, it did personally hurt me. As most people know, I am a Roman Catholic, but I come from a family with a great diverse religious background. My wife is an evangelical Protestant. I enjoy attending with her. My father was an Anglican. We have had a huge, great diversity in our family. One of the things I was taught very early by my mother when I was a little boy is, if you saw a priest, if you saw a rabbi, if you saw a minister, always treat that person with the utmost respect. Incidentally, I was also taught that about police officers. I mean, one of the reasons I have such
Yes.
respect for law enforcement is, my gosh, if a police officer told me something, it was yes, sir, yes, ma'am, very important. So I was blessed to have two wonderful parents. Um, Both saw the world from a very different standpoint politically, but had great core values: respect for our country, respect for God, respect for our veterans. My father fought in World War II, actually lost family members in World War II. Uh, Came from that era. So fortunately, I want to impart those values. But when I see a statue like that at a beautiful parish, St. Stephen's is a beautiful parish, is a beautiful school and church over there. Very, very sad. My thoughts, my prayers, my heart breaks for the people there. But this will show us we need work to do in America. We need to be better than this. It's very sad. It's wrong. And we need to condemn this type of violence.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of statues from all over getting taken down: cemeteries, churches, synagogues. Uh, Is I'm not asking you to look in your crystal ball, but is there an answer to this? I think we're missing some fundamental level of respect and decorum, and basically, as a Boy Scout, I think I
Yes,
mentioned to you
me
before we
too.
went on that.
You were probably more
Yep,
Boy
there you
Scout
go.
than I was. Yes, I was a
Well,
Boy
I did
Scout.
make Eagle, but my brother made Eagle, so I
There
had
you
to.
go.
But
I did
our
not, but
service pro
congratulations. And you were also a military officer. So thank you for your service to our great nation. Appreciate that so
Congressman
much.
Fleischmann, I will tell you this, that the thing on my resume when I clerked at some large law firms and decided I wanted to be on my own, I went to JAG Corps, of course, first, but uh, Eagle Scout, that meant a lot to so many people that interviewed me. But what I was going to get to is we spent a lot of time working in the Chickamauga National Park, cleaning it up, preparing trails, and doing our work. I was up in Isle Royale, which is up in Michigan, and we backpacked and got leeches on ourselves. And But in the Scouts, there's something called citizenship in the community, citizenship in the nation, and citizenship in the world. You constantly learn citizenship. We're not learning that now. So I'm kind of blaming ignorance. But what is the fix to this? How do we stop this toppling of statues and get back to a term you use that you employ? How do we get back to a civil discourse?
It's a great question. We did not get to where we are in America overnight. I think years we have seen our core values being eroded. So I think it's going to take several things. I think it starts in our families around the dinner table where we talk about our values as a people. I think education has a part of this. I think it's critically important that we teach history and American history in the schools. I think we need to talk about our United States Constitution. So many people I speak with have not really been well versed in the Constitution. And at one point in time, when I ran against one of my opponents in the general election, she took up a picture of the Constitution after I finished speaking with it, and her quote was, "This is not the law of the land." That was her quote, and it stunned me to say that because we were speaking to a group of college students. Now, regardless of your bent, left or right, to make a statement like that, I thought was counterproductive. What we need to do is say this is in fact the law of the land as amended, subject to different interpretations, but respect for that document which has governed our great republic for so long. And so it's going to take time. It's going to take civility. It's going to take sitting down, I think, with people with whom we agree, and then sometimes people with whom we disagree. Also, our friends in the media, I think, are going to have to do a much better job. And let me give you some concrete examples of that.
Yes, sir.
I was born in 1962. I grew up in an era that you would turn on the news, and in the evening, you had a choice of Walter Cronkite, Roger Mudd, or I believe David Brinkley. So you had
There you go.
CBS, NBC, and ABC. You didn't have the 24-hour news cycle. But regardless who you chose, our family chose to watch Walter Cronkite. You would have never known that Walter Cronkite was a liberal Democrat. And the reason
Right.
for that is he was such a wonderful professional. When he gave the news, he professed the news. It was not the news with a left bent or with a commentary on it that people went away saying, well, my goodness, why is he or she saying that? I think we need to get back to, with journalism, reporting on the facts. Now, there is nothing wrong with editorial journalism as long as people say, okay, I'm going to leave the facts now and profess an opinion. I do that
My
all the
opinion.
time. And when I go into a school or to a university and I talk with students, I don't talk like a Republican conservative. I talk like the third district representative of the United States. I talk in very generic terms, objective terms about where things are. Now, what I tell the students is if they want to ask me a question that is political, I will certainly allow that, but I will address that in a way appropriate for the venue. I never want to take my values and go in and say, well, this is the law. This is the way it is. I want to say, look, here is our great United States Constitution, our three branches of government. This is how the courts have interpreted it. Now, this is my view of the process. There's a difference there, and there's a delineation there. So, having said that, that's where I think we need to go. So, I think our corporate leaders need to do a better job. Our community leaders need a better job. Lawyers need to do a better job. I was the youngest bar president in Chattanooga bar history in 1996, and
Wow.
was very fortunate to serve in that role. At the time, I was 31 years old, and I had a small law firm, as you know. And what I did, we went out into the community. At that time, we had some of our late judges, Judge Bob Moon, who has since passed, he would go with us. Judge Russell Bean, who was still serving, he would go with us. There was a fine gentleman, Judge Milliken, wonderful judge, passed away far too soon. He would go with us. Judge Patey, would go with us. And we'd actually go in and talk to community groups in a very positive way. Maybe we can rekindle that in America.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. So I remember, I mean, growing up, when we heard the news, we believed the news. I can't say
Yes,
that anymore. I grew up watching, I think the media realizes the power they have, though. I grew up watching the clips from the Vietnam War. They'd show at night. I think you may
yes.
remember that. I remember they repatriated the POWs, and that's one reason I enlisted before I was an officer. I enlisted in the Air Force. I knew I was going to do that, but I was swayed by the media and the images that I saw on television. I really was. And with that kind of power, there's got to be a sense of responsibility. And it's not just about winning. You know, that's what I appreciate about you. Honestly, you were telling me about a case that you had with a lawyer we both know, and you know, it's not just about winning. We take an oath as lawyers to be truthful and to uphold the law, just like you do up there in Congress. And how do we, you know, our media doesn't have to take that. They have a lot more power than I do. I can reach 12 jurors. They reach millions. I'm going to get off my soapbox, but I do want to say to you that as a trial lawyer, you probably, like me, there was a thrill of the fight, but also the anxiety and the stress. You're in a trial every day when you're up there in Congress, aren't you, sir? Isn't it like a trial? Isn't that your life now, that you're constantly in a trial trying to advocate for your community?
You're so right. 24/7. My job is omnipresent. When I go to bed at night, when I wake up in the morning, it is there. My constituents are there calling, texting, reaching out. I am privileged to represent about 700,000, about 720,000 East Tennesseans from the southern part of my district, where Chattanooga is, Hamilton County, all the way up to Scott County on the Kentucky border. And
Ah,
my 11 counties, wonderful people, wonderful histories. But yes, we are constantly testing our ideas and our ideals in this forum, many times, sadly, in a debate that is already predetermined. For example, the House is a creature of numbers. Now, I have served in the majority before. Actually, for the vast majority of my career, I have been in the majority. Right now, we are in the minority. We're the minority party in the House. And that is a very different dynamic. So we do much more communicating rather than legislating. And it's extremely difficult. The Senate, on the other hand, is a creature largely of its rules. And there's a completely different dynamic at play there. But in order to get an agreement between the House and the Senate, which is divided now, my party controls the Senate, the other party controls the House, my party controls the White House. So typically, it requires a certain degree of savoir faire to come to an agreement on big things like the stimulus bills, like this national park bill. And I do want to say this: there are several Republicans. I have a good friend. I've got to give credit here, Greg Vidal, who owns the Morning Point facilities. He has been the champion nationally for these national parks. He's given his time. He's given his treasure. He comes up there. He has occupied the head position there for several years. So, as an aficionado of the national parks and an advocate, he has actually taken me to bipartisan dinners, and it's wonderful to see people from vastly different political worlds come together and coalesce around our great national parks.
you don't just talk the talk; you absolutely walk the walk. And I think we're very
Thank you.
fortunate to have you, sir. And you know, I know how busy you are. This has been an incredible segment for me. I've learned a lot. I know that our listeners and viewers will learn a lot as well. Sir, we'd love to have you. Something comes on, you want to share some news, want to get something out, please don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. And I can't tell you anything but thank you for your service. I'm grateful for you, and I'm in prayer for you and our entire leadership of this country. And I thank you for that, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please continue to pray for our country. We desperately need it, and we will get to a better place. I'm the eternal optimist. That's why I ran for Congress. I'm running for a sixth term. That's why I'm going to continue to run. And every day, in just a few minutes, I will be on the House floor professing that eternal optimism that I think is unique to America. And I thank you.
And that's what we need right now. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Bye now.
Like and share this video, like our page, and subscribe to our channel. Nooga Connection TV is brought to you by my law firm, the Davis Law Firm, also known as Nooga Law. If you've been injured due to the fault of others, perhaps an automobile accident, you want an insurance insider like me, someone who knows all the ins and outs. Find us at noogalaw.com.